This full moon in Scorpio is asking us to look at where we've kept ourselves small or silent in order to maintain connection. Growing up, safety and connection are the two most important things in our lives. And in fact, connection becomes the road to safety. So we'll do anything to maintain it. And in that process, what often happens is a slow erosion of our values, of that little voice inside of us that says, I don't like this, right? We gain a subtle sense of distrust in the self. And with that comes a subtle dis-ease around who we become when other people are around, what we allow, what we silence. And this full moon is asking us to revisit that and the boundaries that we've created in order to maintain connection. This full moon in Scorpio is happening on May 1st at 11 degrees of Scorpio. And this is a culmination, right? Full moons are culmination periods, releases from the new moon that we had in that sign. So the new moon we had in Scorpio was on November 20th, 2025. And that was opposing Uranus and Taurus at 29 degrees. So it was a very shocking, innovative, change-oriented new moon. And now something is being fulfilled. Something is being completed around that, just as Uranus has moved into Gemini. When it comes to full moons, we are being illuminated, we are being asked to release, and we are looking at what has culminated in that time frame. This full moon is also in gate 44, in human design gate 44, gene key 44. And there is something associated to the past, right? This is why whatever we are reclaiming with this Scorpio full moon feels old. It feels, dare I say, ancient, ancestral. And there's a lot of reasons why that's coming up in the gene keys, the human design, the tarot, the Decan, but also in my own personal experience as this energy is coming to fulfillment. There's something that feels like we are being asked to go back into in order to regain, I don't like that word, in order to remember our power. In order to remember our power. Scorpio is about transformation, absolutely. It's about intimacy, depth, intensity. It also has a lot to do with power and control. And Scorpio is naturally ruled by Mars, which Mars is very instinctual and impulsive, one might say, and very survival oriented, right? It's a warrior. And the modern ruler is Pluto, and Pluto is the underworld, psychology, and the occult and the subconscious. And this is also very instinctive. And what often happens with this Scorpio energy, because we all have Scorpio somewhere in our lives. I do whole sign houses. So you've got Scorpio someplace. Scorpio merges. And in that merging, it has a difficult time discerning its boundaries, right? Scorpio will merge and almost lose itself in the other. And this is different than Pisces, because Pisces dissolves. Pisces is boundaryless. Scorpio merges with the other. Pisces merges with everything around it. Scorpio merges with the other person. And so, especially in relationships, it can really struggle oftentimes with finding that balance, the emotional desire to merge, but also protect oneself creates a very dissonant feeling. How do I have both of those things at the same time? And these themes are going to be coming up for us as we move into this full moon. It's a very mystical sign of wisdom. And the specific type of wisdom that is in Scorpio is this like serpent wisdom. It's not logical. The energy here is not logical at all. When we think about instincts, our instincts to survive means that we must be safe and connected. On a very deep level in our physiology, we must be safe and connected. And Scorpionic people will do whatever it takes to maintain those things. A lot of what Scorpios do is not conscious, right? So it's not that they're literally sitting there like writing a list, like I must control this situation, you know? There is it's so deep. It's so deep. And one of the ways that Scorpio does this is by controlling controlling the emotions, right? Because there is such a deep fear and desire of intimacy, of vulnerability. What will someone do if I give them this part of myself? Scorpio rules the reproductive systems. And the reproductive systems are the most, especially in a woman, the most receptive part of our bodies. And so a lot of the issues that we have around control and intimacy and boundaries show up in our reproductive systems, in our pelvic floors, right? There's a rise of endometriosis, specifically, polycystic ovary syndrome, so many issues in this space because it holds memory. And so if you haven't felt it, I can guarantee you that women in your lineage have held it there. So this gets, I mean, as Scorpio does, we're getting real deep. We're getting really deep before I even get into any of the aspects or anything, because it feels important right now to talk about these things where the feminine nature has been violated. And this isn't just for women, right? Women are obviously going to have that in a specific part of their body, but this vulnerability, it is in all of us. And in a lot of ways, it has deeply, deeply been hurt. The biggest thing that Scorpio energy really has difficulty with is rejection. They don't want to be rejected because to them, it's a matter of life or death. That's how it feels in the body. It's not just, oh, I'd really like to. It's like, I don't know if I'll survive this if this person leaves. So there's a real intensity here. And thankfully, we've got the sun in Taurus reminding us, like, it's not that deep. I really struggled with Venusian types when I was younger, but specifically Taurus, because I was just like, you just exist and that's just it. What about the pain and suffering and intensity? And it's like, oh my gosh, we definitely need both, right? With Scorpio, there's such an orientation to pain that often we need to be reminded that we can just exist without delving deep into this pain. And we need to bring it up through the Taurian ways of pleasure and creativity in order to be able to transform it and to live our lives and enjoy our lives, right? And enjoy the connections that we do have. Let's get into the astrology. Let's get into the human design. We've got this full moon. So moon is at 11 degrees, sun is at 11 degrees of Taurus, moon is in Scorpio. First, let's talk about the ruler of this moon. So Pluto and also Mars. Pluto is sitting here in Aquarius. Mars is squaring Jupiter. Mars is in Aries. Aries is new beginnings. Aries is, yep, we're going towards something new, initiation, impulse, taking action. And Jupiter is in Cancer. And Cancer is about the mother and the home, the emotions, memories, the past. There is something we are reclaiming in order to be able to heal from the past and be able to move forward. It's almost like you can't move forward fully right now without going back into the past and thinking about the memories that almost created the causes and conditions in which you are living your life as it comes to boundaries, relationships. Also, power and control. And the illusion that we can have deep, intimate bonds without sharing of ourselves. Mars squaring Jupiter, there's something that needs to be healed, reclaimed from the past before we can move forward. Pluto will be moving retrograde on May 5th, 6th, so a few days after this full moon. And what do retrogrades signify? The past, right? We got to go back in those degrees and reclaim something, and we've got to integrate something. So something from the past may be coming up over the few days before, after, really the next couple of weeks during this during this full moon, and a couple of weeks after, something is coming up for us to sit with, to integrate. Maybe we've had a lot of transformation over the last several months, and it's reminding us of a part of ourselves that needs to know that it is here now. That survival instinct of an older version of us that keeps thinking it needs to survive, when right now you're past that. Right? You've gotten past the point of survival someplace, but some part of you, a part of you, your body, your nervous system doesn't recognize that, and it's continuing those old patterns. And this energy is asking you to break free of that, whatever that pattern is. The decan that rules over the second decan of Scorpio is the Six of Cups. The Six of Cups in tarot is about memories, the past, nostalgia. So once again, we're seeing this come through. Something from childhood, the innocence. I think that's the word. That's the word that Scorpio forgets about often, is the innocence that they had to give up very early on in order to survive. And we're being asked to come back to that and see what wisdom that innocence has for us. I also work with a lot of Piscean people. One of the things that comes up a lot with Pisces, and this is really important because we've got the North Node in Pisces right now, right? And it's trine. Oh my goodness, stop doing that. I don't want an eraser. It's trine this moon and sextile the sun. A lot of Piscean people have been hurt, and I have a lot of 12th house stuff and Neptune stuff going on. So Neptunian people, 12th house people get hurt because they're too naive sometimes with people. They give people too much grace. And like, what a world, right? Where that becomes a negative thing. But also, this is one of the reasons why Neptunian, Piscean, 12th house people struggle sometimes in the 3D reality, because they're existing on a soul level, and on a soul level there is no duality, right? We are all one, and we don't hurt each other, and we don't take advantage of each other. But in this world, it's a 3D realm, and the 3D realm requires this discernment, Virgo, right, of who we open up to. And it's such a balance to understand how to not lose the innocence, but also gain some discernment. And here's what I want to name. The better that you get at transmuting the scorpionic energy, the less that you are scared of rejection. And so even negative energy, in my culture, I'm from Iran, and it's just very common to say, like, hopefully they don't give you the evil eye and all these things. And I know it's just tradition and it's customary, but whenever people say that, I just say, oh, I don't care if they do. They can give me the evil eye. That's fine. Because there's a part of me that really trusts that I can transmute that. I'm not asking for evil eye, but I'm also not trying to prevent it. Let's clean this up a little bit. My progressive Virgo rising is like, Okay, the other thing I want to talk about is this. Mercury Chiron conjunction in Aries. This is what I was talking about at the very beginning of this video. Where have you abandoned yourself little by little over time to believe that you don't get to have boundaries, that you don't get to walk into a room and let the frequency match yours? The card I got for the advice here was actually the King of Wands. And the King of Wands does not ask for permission. He doesn't walk into a room and adapt. He walks in the room and he's like, hey, I'm here. What are we going to do? He's a great leader of others because he leads himself first. And this is something that we're just not taught to do. But Mercury Chiron conjunction is really bringing up the pattern, the mental patterns and communication patterns that we've created in order to be safe when it comes to communicating. Venus in Gemini on Aldebaran. Aldebaran is a Persian royal star that has to do with integrity. And This is ruled by Saint Michael, God's right-hand man. And this is squaring the nodes. So something about relationships, creativity, values, money is coming up to be transformed right now. And you're going to have to look at past, right? The South Node being our karmic comfort zone in order to evolve these themes around Venus in a way that is, with Venus on top of Aldebaran, it is really about making sure to the best of your ability that what you are doing in those realms, in relationships, I think relationships is going to be huge here, but also creativity, values, money is above board, is really above board. You're doing the best you can to have integrity in these interactions, in whatever you're doing with these different themes, because you're going to be pushed to grow. And in order to do that, you're going to have to release some past patterns. The South Node is not a bad thing. It just reminds us that something must be released, along with the full moon, right? Full moon is about illumination and release. Yes. Where do you abandon yourself? Where does that little voice that says, hey, maybe you should say something? Hey, maybe, and oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal. Where are you doing that? And how is it serving you, right? Let's do some shadow work. Scorpio, let's do some shadow work. How is it serving you, right? Because you wouldn't do it if it didn't continue to serve you in some way, even if it's an outdated part of yourself. And number two, how is it no longer serving you? For me, it was like when I moved to America when I was 6 from Iran, there was a line drawn in the sand, and the Jazz who stepped foot here is not, or who left Iran was not the same one who stepped foot here. It was like survival. And I'm coming up on 29 years of being here, so almost a full Saturn cycle in July of this year. And it feels like I've been having to do this internal work of going back to that little girl and telling her, hey, you don't have to survive anymore, right? Since then, it's always been like abusive relationships, chronic pain, autoimmune, crisis, nonstop, job I hate. And now that I'm like, all of those things have been kind of stripped away, I'm like, oh, wow, I see it very clearly now. So it's very interesting and very, very, very profound to sit with recently. I'm not sure if anyone else has another situation like that they've been sitting with recently. We get to heal. We get to heal these old parts of ourselves. We get to go back. And like I said, for some of us, this might not be even ours. Where do you feel that there has been a belief that you had to survive, that you could not create your own life in a way that actually means something to you? Like, what do you actually value outside of the survival patterns that you've had to create to survive? Let's take a look at the human design just for a little bit. This full moon is happening in gate 44, the gate of alertness, coming to meet. In the gene keys, this is, by the way, I always have books in my book list, so if you're interested in my books that I have here, the gene key has a lot to do with relationships, this gene key specifically. And same with the Decan. The Six of Cups is not just about nostalgia, the past, and memories. It's about emotional giving and offering. I mean, this is something that I actually really love talking about as I've gone through this very transformative journey the last few years, and my partner and I have really like done a lot of transforming our relationship. And how I actually recently sat down and like was like, what did we do? Like, what did we do? Because nothing is perfect, but man, it's very, very different. And it's been very different for a while now. And a lot of it is, what I've recognized is that there's an energetic signal that boundaries require. They can't be just words. They can't. Boundaries are not to protect just you. They're there to protect the sanctity of the relationship, the sovereignty of you and the other person. So that's for another video. But I want to talk a little bit about, I actually I've been wanting to do that video for a while. I want to talk a little bit about this gene key. The 44th gene key is called karmic relationships. It's about karmic relationships. The shadow is interference, and the gift is teamwork. Let me know if you have gene key 44 or gate 44 in your human design body graph. I have a chart on my website that you can check if you don't have it. Because what's interesting about this is that because it's in the root center here, and the roots, I'm sorry, not the root, the spleen. The spleen center is the oldest instinctual center that we have. So it's very primitive. And here, gate 44 has a lot to do with smell. So people who have this often have a really, really good nose, and good nose for people, but also just smells. My partner has this, and almost everyone I know, they can smell things really, like my partner will walk into a room and be like, something's wrong in here. And I'm like, what? I don't smell anything. And so he's got a really good nose, really good smell because of that. It's instinctual, it's primitive. Here we've got Mars in gate 51, and gate 51 is about shock. And it's squaring Jupiter, which is in gate 53. And gate 53 is about new beginnings. It sits in the root center, the pressure to start something new. So we've got this energy of, and we've got the whole channel of initiation. This energy feels like this full moon is going to shock us into something new. And it's a culmination of the new moon that was opposite Uranus, right? So this is really, I think, putting us into new spaces around relationships, around money, around creativity, our values. It is really asking us to, it's not even asking us, it's demanding in some ways and asking us to just rise to that occasion, that something's got to change. You've got to liberate yourself from these patterns. Something will shock you into a new beginning somewhere. Your job is to allow it, right? And we do that by creating safety in the body. Until we feel safe in our own bodies, we will never find it outside of ourselves. We will never truly feel safe in relationships. And true safety requires coming back into the present moment, the tactile 3D moment, reorienting to pleasure. You know, the sun being in gate 24, the gate of return, the gene key here goes from addiction to invention. And gate 24, if you have gate 24 in your body graph, is really about, and what we're all experiencing right now is about silence. It's about the pause, and how so many of us are addicted to not feeling the moment in between. Anyone who works with me or is in my group programs knows that I very much incorporate this into our sessions, is pausing in transitional spaces, breathing into them, reminding the body that we are here, that we've arrived. This is very, very important, taking the moment to pause and to not be addicted to filling up that space, because it's in that silence that invention and creative expression arises truly. One of the things I value more than anything is silence. And going into retreats, you know, every year I do a minimum of 10 days of silence, that I do silent meditations, no reading, no writing, no speaking. I'm actually planning to do my first 2-week one in June, so that'll be interesting. That is a necessary part of the creative process for me. Day to day, where can you pause, return back to yourself? This is the act of returning back to oneself again and again and again, and remembering and retrieving what it is that we've abandoned a long time ago. If you are interested in the type of work that I do, right now I'm not seeing one-on-one clients. I am running group programs. Right now, Creative Rewilding is going on. I will be doing Inner Revolution Immersion soon. Check out my website, see what calls out to you. I've got some wait lists on there for my one-on-one sessions as well. And thanks so much for being here. Happy full moon, Scorpio. I'll see you next time.